friends, welcome to Brain Scoop channel. This is my new video and our today's topic is radiation protection in pediatric radiography. So children do not all reach a sense of understanding at the same predictable age. This ability varies from child to child and the pediatric technologist must not assume that the children will comprehend what is occurring. Generally, however, by the age of 2 or 3 years, most children can be taught through a diagnostic radiographic study without immobilization or parental aid. Most important is the sense of trust, which begins at the first meeting between the patient and the technologist. The first impression that the child has of the technologist is everlasting and forgets the bond of the successful relationship. So, these are important as children do not reach a sense of understanding, and we have to take care that we should create a bond of a successful relationship with the patient so that the radiographic study should be better. Next, successful radiographic studies are dependent on two things: the technologist's attitude and the approach to the child, and second is the technical preparation in the room. So let us talk about these. At the first meeting, most children are accompanied by at least one parent or caregiver. The following steps are important. The first is introduce yourself as a technologist who will be working with this child. The second, find out what information the attending physician has given to the parent and the patient. And third, explain what you are going to do and what your needs will be. Tear, fear, and combative resistance are common reactions of a young child. The technologist must take the time to communicate to the parent and the child in language they can understand exactly what he and she is going to do. So we have to explain the procedure to the patient. The second is the technologist must try to build an atmosphere of trust in the waiting room before the patient is taken into the radiographic room. This includes discussing the necessity of immobilization as a last resort if the patient or if the child's cooperation is unattainable. So, evaluate patient's or caregiver's role. Parent is in room as an observer, leading support and comfort by his or her presence. Second, parent serves as a participator, assisting with immobilization. And third, parent is asked to remain in the waiting area and not accompany the child into the radiographic room, depending upon the situation. Sometimes children who act fearful and combative in the waiting room with the parent present will be more cooperative without their presence. This is the time when the technologist's communication skills are tested. Next, reporting suspected child abuse. Most medical facilities have a procedure in place to report suspected child abuse. In the past, the term used for this was battered child syndrome, that is BCS. The current acceptable term is non-accidental trauma, that is NAT. Generally, it is not the responsibility of the technologist to make a judgment as to whether child abuse has occurred, but rather to report the facts as they are seen or suspected. If NAT is suspected, the technologist should discuss this with the radiologist or other supervisor as determined by the departmental protocol. Laws vary on technologist responsibility, and it is most important that all technologists know what their responsibilities are concerning this in the state or province in which they are working. Next is pediatric patients in general can include infants to children up to 12 to 14. However, older children can be treated more like adults except for special care in gonadal shielding and reduced exposure factors because of their smaller size. In general, pediatric radiography should always use as short exposure times and as high MA as possible to minimize image blurring that may result from patient motion. However, even with short exposure times, preventing motion during exposure is a constant challenge in pediatric radiography, and effective methods of immobilizations are essential. So there are two types of immobilization devices in the radiography. The first one is the TAM-M board and the second is PIC-O-STAT. So this is the TAM-M board which holds a child in place and prevents motion. The second is the PIC-O-STAT which has the following parts. A is the bicycle type seat, then the side body clamps, film holder mount, swivel base, adjustable lead shield with markers, mounting standard on wheels, and extra set of smaller body clamps. The simplest and least expensive form of immobilization involves the use of equipment and supplies that are commonly found in most departments. For example, tapes, sheets or towels, sandbags, covered radiolucent sponge blocks, compression bands, Scotted nets, and ace bandages, if used correctly, are effective in immobilization. Now, sandbags, strong canvas type material, and children's coarse sterilized playing sand should be used. Coarse sand is recommended because if the bag should break open, the sand is more easily cleaned up and the chance of causing artifacts on radiograph is minimized. Then tape and bandage. Various types of gentle tapes are used for surgical procedures and sensitive skin. Adhesive tapes may show on a radiograph and create an artifact that could obscure the anatomic part of interest. Also, some patients have an allergy reaction to the adhesive tapes. The fragile skin of infants can be injured by adhesive tapes unless the tapes is twisted so that the adhesive surface is not against the skin. Gauze pads placed between skin and adhesive tapes can also be used effectively. A 4-inch ACE bandage is best for smaller infants and young children, whereas a 6-inch bandage works well for older children. These are best used for immobilization of legs. When starting the wrapping process, begin at the patient's hip and wrap down to the patient's midcalf. Do not wrap too tightly, this would cut off circulation. So this is a type of adhesive bands and tapes are used. Compression bands and head clamps. Compression or retention bands are valuable aids for immobilization. Compression bands, however, are more effective with pediatric patients when used in combination with sandbags. Then weighted angle blocks as head clamps. These are heavy steel angle blocks with thick radiolucent sponge pads attached. They are relatively inexpensive to have made compared with cost commercially available head clamps. They are very effective and versatile in immobilization, especially when used in combination with sandbags or tapes or if the patient is mummified. This is mummifying or wrapping with sheets or towels to prevent motion of the patient. Then bone development. The bones of infants and small children go through various growth changes from birth to adolescence. The pelvis is an example of ossification changes that are apparent in children. As shown in the division of hip bones between the ilium, ischium and pubis are evident. They appear as individual bones separated by joint space, which is cartilaginous growth region in the area of acetabulum. The heads of the femora also appear to be separated by a joint space that should be not be confused with fracture sites and other abnormalities. These are normal cartilaginous growth regions. So we can see the hips where the hip bone can be seen differently and also the femoral region. So they could not be taken as the fracture. Same with the wrist. Then minimal repeats. Reduction of repeat exposure is critical, especially in young children whose developing cells are particularly sensitive to the effects of radiation. Proper immobilization and high MA short exposure time techniques will reduce the incidence of motion unsharpness. Accurate manual technique charts with patient body weight should be used. Radiographic grades should be used only when the body part examined is greater than 10 centimeters in thickness. Each radiology department should keep a list of specific routines for pediatric imaging exams, including specialized views and limited examination series, to ensure that appropriate projections are obtained and no unnecessary exposures are made. Then the gonadal protection. Gonads of the children should always be shielded with contact type shields unless such shields obscure the essential anatomy of the lower abdomen or pelvic area. Pre-exam preparation. The following should be completed before the patient is brought into the room. The necessary immobilization and shielding should be in place. Sandbag, tape, TEM board if used, sheets or towels, stocknet, ace bandages and shielding devices for patient and for parents if assisting. Image receptors and markers should be in place and techniques set. Specific projection should have been determined. which may require consultation with the radiologist. If two technologists are working together, they should clarify the role that each will play during the procedure. A suggested division of responsibilities is to have the assisting technologist set techniques, make exposure, change the IRS, and process the image will be primary technologist position the patient, instructs the patient, and position the tube, collimation, and required shielding. Then the child preparation. After the child is brought into the room and procedure is explained to the child and patient satisfaction, the parent or technologist must remove any clothing, bandages or diapers from the body parts to be radiographed. This is necessary to prevent these items from casting shadows and creating artifacts on the radiographic image because of low exposure factors used for the patient's small size. Pathologic indications for the pediatric respiratory system. There are some of the pathologies. So the first one is asthma. Asthma is the most common in children and generally is caused by the anxiety or allergies. Airways are narrowed by the stimuli that do not affect the airways in normal lungs. Breathing is laborated and increased mucus in the lungs may result in some increase in the radio density of the lung field. Next is acetylasis. This is a condition rather than a disease in which the collapse of all or a portion of a lung occurs because of obstruction of the bronchus or puncture of the blowout of an air passageway. With less than normal air in the lung, this region appears more radiodense, which may cause the trachea and heart to shift to the affected side. Next is bronchitis. In this condition, irreversible winding or dilation of the bronchi results from the acute infection or from congenital structural abnormalities of the portion of the airways, eventually creating obstruction. This may develop at any age but most often begins in early childhood. Severe conditions may require a slight increase in exposure factors. Next is croup. This condition, primarily seen in children from age 1 to 3, is caused by the viral infection. It is made evident by elaborated breathing and harsh dry cough that frequently is accompanied by fever. It is treated most commonly with antibiotics, but AP and lateral radiographs of neck and upper airways may be requested to demonstrate characteristically smooth but tapered narrowing of the upper airways, which is most obvious on the AP projections. Next is the epiglottis or supraglottis. This bacterial infection of the epiglottis is most common in children from ages 2 to 5 but may also affect adults. Epiglottitis is a serious condition that can rapidly become fatal within hours of onset. It results from blockage of airways caused by swelling. Examinations usually must be performed in an emergency room by a specialist who is using a laryngoscope. The airway can be reopened by inserting an endotracheal tube or by performing a tracheostomy, that is, opening through the front of the neck. A physician or other attendant should accompany the patient during any radiographic procedure to ensure that the airway remains open. Now, there are some of the conditions and the radiographic exams and associated with it. The first one is aspiration, which is mechanical, that is AP and lateral chest or AP and lateral upper airways for obstruction. In asthma, PA and lateral chest. In acetylitis or lung collapse, that is PA and lateral chest. Bronchitis, PA and lateral chest, and with slight increase of the factors or exposure adjustment. Croup, which is the viral infection, PA and lateral chest, and AP and lateral upper airways. Next is epiglottitis, which is AP and lateral chest and lateral upper ways. This is all for today. If you like this video, please like, share and comment, and do subscribe my YouTube channel for further updates. Thank you.